Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dave Robbins with End Time Ministries. I do thank you for joining me on this edition of the End Time Show. Now, today, I'm just going to relax a little bit. I'm going to give you guys some updates and what's going on. I just got off a Zoom call all around the world with people in the United States, Europe, Israel, and in Southeast Asia. And I'm teaching them Bible prophecy, and then I've got a Bible study going on Thursday nights. I teach the Jerusalem Prophecy College on Thursday mornings. But I wanted to, I make the statement all the time that the prophecies are all converging at the same time. Wow. I mean, we're watching these things happening right before our very eyes, everybody. So for all of the new listeners here and people that have joined us over the last few months, I know we went on a new radio station over by Fort Worth, a lot of different things, people joining us all the time around the world. What's the big deal with the red heifers? Well, Numbers 19 says that all of Israel needs to be purified, anybody who's come in contact with a dead body, in order to resume the daily sacrifices and to any of the rituals that have to do with the third temple. All of Israel needs to be purified. So the last red heifer that was, and they need to sacrifice the red heifer, or I'm sorry, they need to perform a purification ceremony. They don't like calling it a sacrifice. And they need to burn up a red heifer with no white or black hairs, a completely total red heifer that has never had a yoke around her neck, no blemishes. And then they need to take the ashes from that red heifer, distribute it around the camp, out in front of the tabernacle or temple plan, and then they mix it with use hyssop and some different things and some spices, and then they would, administer that somehow to the Jews, and that would purify them in order for them to resume those daily sacrifices and things like that. That's Numbers chapter 19. Well, of course, the last red heifer, they haven't had a red heifer for about 2,000 years now, since before the destruction of the temple in 70 A.D. So they've been looking for one, especially since they declared independence in May 14, 1948. They've been looking feverishly for a red heifer because many of them believe they're in the third temple era and they want to build a third temple before very long. So they've been looking for a red heifer. My father-in-law followed this for decades with Clyde Lott in Mississippi, and they knew about Melody that was born in Israel and the ranch they established in Israel, trying to get to create just built to create red heifers, to try to crossbreed different breeds of cows and try to create a red heifer. They haven't been successful in getting a red heifer up to 2 years, at least 2 years and 3 months now. Well, they asked Byron Stinson, a friend of mine. He has now become a good friend of mine. He was over doing some cleanup projects and working with some of the rabbis and different people in Israel. And they asked him, hey, you're from the land of cattle, Texas. Can you find a truly red heifer? Well, at that point, he didn't know anything about it. And he told them, he said, what are you talking about? Well, they told him the prophecy, and they said, can you find a true red heifer here in Texas? He said, I don't even know anything about cattle, but I try. Comes back to Texas, starts sending out, now this is several years ago, starts sending out flyers, started doing some email posts and different things, or sending out some emails and, some posts on social networking and things, and saying, hey, we're looking for some true red heifers. And he told them the story about what's going on in Israel and the biblical ramifications of it. Well, he had people started contacting him. Hey, I have red heifers on my, and from a distance, a lot of cows look red. But when these rabbis, when they inspect them, it's every hair on that cow's body. And so from a distance, a lot of cows look red. But when you get right up, and doing a very fine inspection, you'll find some white or black hairs. Well, Byron Stinson, some people had contacted the Temple Institute in Israel and said, hey, we're here in Texas and we have some true red heifers. Well, the Temple Institute, rather than sending a delegation over in the beginning, they sent a rabbi who was here in Dallas out to inspect the heifer, and they found many of them had blemishes. They had white and black hairs, and I think that the ranchers didn't realize how detailed they were going to be with the inspection. And so none of them were qualified red heifers. However, I had a partner of ours contact me a few years ago, and his name is Louis Coomer. He said, hey, I'm going to look at a truly qualified kosher red heifer over here in Carrollton. Do you want to go? And I said, tell me when, where, what time. I mean, I'm there. Well, I went over here, and I saw a red heifer in the trailer, the back of a trailer on a big fifth-wheel pickup, and totally, she had been qualified by a rabbi that had come over here, totally red. Well, my father-in-law had been following this stuff for years, and I thought, man, he had just passed when this happened. And I thought, man, could this be, one of the ones? Well, come to find out, there was a ranch out here in Rockwall, Texas, where they found 21. And I mean, the rabbis were there. I went out there. I was invited out there. I met Byron Stinson at the meeting over here in Carrollton. I talked to him, and I said, they knew that we had a radio and television program. We had this huge platform, and I told him, I said, if this is true, I'll help get the word out. Well, they invited me to come over to the ranch, Ty Davenport's ranch out here in Rockwall. And I saw, me and a friend of mine, Marvin Blakey, we went out there, a great, wonderful partner of ours. We went out there. We took pictures of the 21 kosher red heifers they have. My father-in-law is buried in Rockwall. Irvin Baxter, he's buried in Rockwall. The ranch that they found 21 of these red heifers, they found several of them there, and then were brought in from around Texas. But the ranch is probably 10 miles from where he's buried. And he would be just on cloud nine to see all this stuff happening. Well, because he talked about it for decades. Well, I go out there when the rabbis, the delegation of rabbis from the Temple Institute come over. They were doing blood tests. They had veterinarians out there. They were ready to take all 21 of them to Israel. Well, and I've got pictures of them on my phone. Well, the Israeli government said, no, that's not going to happen. You're not bringing 21, because if you understand, when you go to bring livestock from one country to another, it's got to be inspected. There's all kinds of stuff. They don't want disease coming into the country, so they allowed them to bring 5 of those kosher red heifers to Israel as pets. And I was dealing with Byron Stinson through all of this. I was interviewing him, talking to him. I've had him on my program. Well, anyway, they take all 5 of them to pets, and they were kept in a special holding pens up in Shiloh, north of Jerusalem. Now, it's about kind of north, I think it's northwest of Jerusalem, just a little bit, maybe 45 minutes away north of there. Well, wow. There was some of Hamas said, well, hey, we can't have this. This is an affront to the Temple Mount, or they don't call it the Temple Mount. They call it, the Al-Aqsa or something like that. And so they said, I think it's Al-Sharam Harif or something like that. Anyway, they said, no, we can't do this. And they say that that's one of the reasons that Hamas was invaded, because they said this is just not going to happen. Well, anyway, that hasn't stopped it, obviously. But they have, over time, these heifers got up to 2 years and 3 months old. They had to be into the third year, and they become of age. Well, a lot of people started speculating, well, man, they're ready to do the ceremony. The problem is that because they were in wartime, Israel would not give them a permit to do the ceremony up on the Mount of Olives, where they say they have property purchased ready to do this. Well, because the Bible says that, they took the heifer outside the camp, and so they're saying it's got to be right outside the Temple Mount, overlooking the Temple Mount, and so they say it's got to be up on the Mount of Olives. That's where it's got to happen. Well, and I asked Byron Stinson, he said, yeah, that's what they're telling him. Well, anyway, over time, these red heifers got of age, and then they went, into the third year, into the fourth year, and now here we are moving along. Well, as time went on, some of them, they kept inspecting the heifers. Well, some of them one of them got a blemish, so then they went down to 4. And then a couple of them got white and black hairs. So then they went down to 2. And then I had people start contacting me. And, of course, I'm in the news all the time, and I'm following this stuff. And I seen an article from Israel 365 yesterday. And the title of the article is, "The Temple Institute Announces That All Texas Red Heifers Are Disqualified." And I thought, now, hold on a second. So rather than just buy into the story, I checked my source. I text Byron Stinson, and the guy who's over the whole project. He's working alongside the rabbis that are there. And I said this, and this is my text. Byron, there are stories floating around that there are no more qualified red heifers in Israel. Is this true? Byron said, well, we have one. This is his text back to me. I've got the text on my phone. He said, Dave, we have one left. He said the other was used. They had 2, remember. He said the other was used for the full practice ceremony. And he told me right there at the very end, he said, I have the ashes for that ceremony, the practice. Now, why he kept the ashes, I don't know. Some people speculate, now he didn't tell me this, but some people speculate that they did that in case they were never able to do it up on the Mount of Olives. I am totally speculating. I don't know if that was the case or not. I'm going to be in Israel in October, and if I can, I will meet Byron. Maybe I'll have him come talk to our group. I don't know that. So if you're going to Israel with us, don't quote me on that. But, I mean, maybe we'll see how that goes. This depends on his schedule because he's back and forth from Israel to here. And, however, he says, I have one left, and I have the ashes to the practice one. Well, and he says this. This is in his text to me. He said, Dave, to be clear, the Temple Mount Institute is our friend, but he says, but they don't agree among themselves. He said 80% say the cows are good. And he says, 2, the Temple Mount Institute did not pay anything or participate in the cows from Texas. Bona Israel, Boneh Israel, is Byron's source. It's his kind of a corporation or something that he set up. He said Bona Israel did it, and Bona Israel is still in charge of the cows and makes the final call, whether they're kosher or not. He said Bona Israel understands that the only time you can disqualify or qualify the cow is at the moment of the ceremony. He said, bigger yet, Zechariah 12 says in the last days that the evil nations will surround the land of Israel with a plan to destroy the people. He said, but Judah will fight and gain a huge victory, blinding many. And then he puts in parentheses the pagers. And so he's letting me know, hey, man, everything's working together here well. And I'm quoting from his text. He says, if Yahya Sinwar had waited for all of Iran, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and Hamas to be fully prepared and launched at the same moment. You remember, Hamas invaded. Imagine if Iran, the Houthis down in Yemen, Hezbollah, and Hamas would have invaded at the same time. Israel would have been overwhelmed. But Hamas jumped the gun. So he said, but Hamas went early. Why? He said Yahya Sinwar wrote to Iran explaining that he would no longer wait any longer because of the 5 cows from Texas. These 5 kosher red heifers, because they saw that as an affront to the Temple Mount. And so Byron, he ends the text with this. He said, I'm so proud to be connected and serving the Lord as he makes a way that no one could but him, and he only knows how to do it. Hashem, or God, deserves all the glory. So that's straight from the guy who is over the Red Heifer Project over there in Israel. I wanted to give you guys a report because this Israel 365 article, and he actually says, I went to his Facebook post, and he says that Israel, Israel 365 should, do a repost and, to revise their article a little bit. But I don't know anything about that. And I'm just saying that he's saying that there is still one red heifer left. Now, what happens if that red heifer becomes non-kosher? I don't know. They've already started to breed some of the other heifers with a truly red bull. and they're trying to create more red heifers to come. I don't know if they could come back over here to Ty Davenport's ranch. I don't know. I'm just telling you that I know what the prophecies say, and that there is going to be a peace agreement before very long that allows Israel to build a third temple, and all of these things are in the works. God knows this stuff, and so we'll just see how it all turns out. Again, I want you to know I don't believe they need a red heifer. I don't believe that they need a third temple. I believe you can be born again without any of that, but I'm just reporting to you to what happens because the Bible says they are going to build a third temple. And so it looks like, we'll just have to see. I know all these prophecies are converging at the same time, so I wanted to mention this stuff to you because there's a lot of questions flying around about, well, hey, no, there's no more third temples. Now the whole thing is shot. Listen to me. I'm telling you, folks, when a peace agreement is signed and they are allowed to build their third temple, I don't care. Like I've said before, I don't care if they have to spray paint a heifer red. They will get a red heifer. If there's 2 white hairs, they'll probably pluck them out behind the barn, and they'll have a red heifer when it's time to start that thing, because they're kind of making some things up as they go along. Let's face it. They're going to have, I've seen the blueprints for the third temple, the blueprints, and they've got USB ports and electricity and an elevator and all kinds of stuff. It's going to be built to modern-day building codes. The third temple, yes. And so they're kind of making some stuff up as they go along. And so and I want y'all to understand that. And so just, but I want to keep you abreast of the situation because God says all this stuff's going to be happening right here in the end time.
As soon as you say end time, they say, whoa, the end of the world. When's it going to be? And you can see this mask of fear. I'm not telling you the end time is coming. I'm telling you, you live in it right now. Daniel chapter number 7, verse number 4. The first beast was like a lion. We have the eagle used continually to depict the United States of America. You see it on governmental documents. We are the generation for which these that you will not miss one segment of understanding the end time, because I've had many people tell me it's changed their life forever. Many of the major prophecies of the Bible are given to us 2, 3, some of them as high as 4 or 5 times. There is not any chance it's not going to happen, because it's in your Bible, it's prophesied, and the prophecies always coming back.
Okay, so let me get back into another article here. Let's talk about debanked and defiant. It's a war on the right. And now think about this. You say, well, the president, he's exempt, right? President Trump just said, and I'm quoting, that he was debanked. He quotes this, and he says, they told me to take my money and leave. And he said, not because I broke the law, not because I was a risk, but because I'm a conservative. And they were afraid of the heat. So, what we're witnessing in America today is, it's not just some kind of a financial decision for America. It's a political purge. It's a religious purge. It's a conservative purge. President Trump told CNBC that J.P. Morgan Chase and Bank of America refused to do business with him. Now, we're not talking about $50 or $500. We're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars. And they said, no, we can't do an account for you. He went in with real money, everybody, close to $1 billion, I guess it was. I think it was like 1.1 billion maybe. But by his own account, and he was told no. Brian Moynihan, the CEO of Bank of America, allegedly said, we can't do it. So President Trump was forced to scatter deposits across small banks all over the United States. He said, I was putting $10 million in here, $10 million in there, just to find someone who would accept American money from a president. Now think about that, everybody. And here's where the story turns from economic injustice to full-blown political persecution. And not just political, religious, conservatism. I mean, according to the reports from the Gateway Pundit and the New York Post, these big, huge banks, they didn't act alone. They were pressured by Biden's banking regulators, the FDIC, the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, and even the Federal Reserve. And what was their justification? That Trump, they claimed, posed a reputational risk because of his speech on January 6th. So I want you to let that sink in a little bit. America's biggest banks were allegedly strong-armed into treating a president like a criminal because of I guess it was a former president at that time, like a criminal because of a speech, everybody. Not a crime, a speech. Meanwhile, these same regulators, they were supposed to be protecting depositors, not pursuing political vendettas. But this, again, this is where we're at in America. And if you think they can't do it to if they'll do it to a former president, they won't do it to you, think again. And it wasn't just Trump. Reports suggested this debanking sweep has ensnared conservatives, Christians, crypto firms. And again, I told everybody a couple weeks ago when I talked about this that I would get emails from people who had been debanked. You should have seen my email. People everywhere. Dave, I've been debanked because of this. Dave, I've been debanked, and they didn't give me a reason. And even international faith-based charities. And one Christian group in Uganda was reportedly debanked because their beliefs didn't align with woke values. And that's not risk management. That's ideological warfare, everybody. And so, you know, in response, President Trump isn't just speaking out. He's preparing to strike back. Yeah. And imagine that. Well, I'll tell you about that when we get back from the break here. But it's this debanking, this economic sanctioning that they're using. Man, that sounds prophetic, doesn't it? Sounds like the mark of the beast type stuff when they use economic sanctioning to get you to bow down to their edicts. Well, we're going to do a deep dive a little bit further when we get back from the break.